Sawyer County Public Works meeting to order. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Ron Kinsley,
Here.
Mark Helwig, Ed Peters,
Here.
Chris Rusk,
Here.
Brian Bissonnette,
Here.
quorum.
Let the record, we have a quorum. 3 people here and 3 people virtual. Pledge allegiance. We got the flag on the screen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Number 4, certification compliance open meeting law.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Q meeting agenda is. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye. I can't hear anything.
Thank you for saying something. We have the minutes of the public hearing from July 12th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the public hearing from July 12th.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Russ to approve the hearing minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 8, Maintenance Department report. Mr. Hagberg provided us a written report. Andy, anything you want to touch on?
Not here. I think I'll address it under the courthouse construction update.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Mr. Russ, Mr. Bissonnette?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Next item is Sawyer County Airport report. Mr. Leslie. He handed the reports out to us, pretty brief, but you'll get right to the point.
Good evening. Airport's busy. It's not much different than Main Street in the summertime. The airport's kind of bustling all the same. July was something this year. It was busy. About as busy as I think we've ever been in July. A lot of folks coming and going. We picked up a couple new property owners who have big airplanes that are planning on flying in and out. Purchased homes on area lakes, which is always interesting dynamic that the airport brings to the community. One was from St. Louis, family from St. Louis. And then just today, actually, we had some contractors fly in because they're bringing people in to talk about doing some big construction stuff next spring. Apparently the contractors are the kind that fly in for it too. So we have a lot of that in the area, but we don't pick up new people very often, not in that scale. And there was 2 of them this summer that visited our community and are now going to be spending money here, which is nice. But just traffic is up from last year across the board. Small planes to little planes, it's been busy. Lots of late nights. And yeah, working with Andy on some things, but I think summer's never really an easy time to get together to hash out plans. I usually try to do most of the stuff not during the 3 months of summer. So we got some stuff to work on, but everything's pretty good. Airport's been safe, busy, open, all those wonderful things.
What's the next date of the master plan meeting?
We haven't set a date yet. Kaufman Associates is still putting together all their forecasting, and the forecasting is one of the more in-depth things that happens in the master plan process, and it's not something that really gets controlled on a local level. They're pulling all the information from every federal and private database that they can, trying to figure out, what airplanes are using the airport, the frequency, the sizes, the weights. Taking all of that information and putting it into spreadsheets that essentially discuss what the fleet mix is, what the airport size is currently, what the projected size might be in 10 or 20 years based upon what our traffic is now. It's a pretty in-depth process, but it's not something that we have a lot to do with. That's kind of beyond any of our controls, and that's part of what you hire a contractor to do. Engineering firm, consultant, is to look at all those things and start putting it together, where we're at now and where we might be for aircraft numbers in 20 years. That makes sense.
What's the chances of the funding for the rehabilitation runway in 25?
Well, we've been led to believe that it's just a slam dunk. It's guaranteed, but that's kind of where we thought for when we were going to do construction in spring of 2024.
It's kind of like an airport. We're in the lineup for the runway, and we just didn't get cleared for takeoff next year. So we should still be in the lineup for takeoff in 25. That type of slam dunk. So we've been approved. It's just when they have the money ready for us to go.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
And our petition, we received confirmation yesterday from the Bureau of Aeronautics that the petition we filed last month was accepted, and we received the confirmation of that.
Okay.
So the big thing that we'll be working on now, that petition and the primary focus of it was so we can get a new snow blower. It's not going to hit probably right away this winter, but we're hoping to get it sometime during this winter season. And that's going to take a big load off, I think, of everybody. Got to figure out what we're going to do with the old one. Nice to have a backup, but it's a very expensive backup to fix if it does break. So, but yeah, excited about getting a new piece of equipment. That snowblower is super important to keep in the airport, not only open but safely open. Big mountains of snow near the runway is bad, and pretty much everywhere. And some airports, smaller airports, can get away with it, but with the flight volumes that we have coming in and out, it's just not an option.
Okay. Thank you. Move on to number 10, Highway Commissioner's report.
Thank you. The crew, we finished installing Captain 16 culverts on W. Last week, we were originally supposed to start August 14th with paving, the pipeline to August 21st now for paving, so we're right on track there. We did have to replace 3 culverts on County Road S, and we actually just finished paving about 9 minutes ago.
Nice.
So, we were within a couple $1,000 that we discussed last meeting. We've been watching closely, but I think with maybe $5,000. Our mowing operations are still continuing through the county. We still got, right now, we don't have 3 mowers on state.
John.
Just because we have everybody paving right now, but we'll get back on our state road. I think we have 1 on state right now, and we'll get back on the county here after this week. So our storm damage cleanup still, we're moving along. We're about 50% complete, and we're still continuing to work Fridays. A lot of people have been volunteering, so we haven't had any issues there. We did hire a new driver operator in Hayward yesterday. Looking back though, we're sitting at 16 full-time employees. Looking back at previous years, all the way back to 2012, we've had 19 employees at the highway department. So I talked to Rose about that today. We're going to be posting more positions. We have a public involvement meeting tomorrow night, in town of Coudray for the Sea Bridge. That starts at 7:00. The LRIP pilot program, I went to the WTA meeting, last Monday, I believe, and, kind of talked about, I'll be able to help and stuff. I've been passing on all the information that I've been receiving. The WTA hasn't passed very much information along to the town, so I've been working with them and answering his questions as best as I can. Just to update you guys, the salt prices went up from 86.25 to 94.01 per ton. It's going to cost us roughly around $26,000 for the same amount of salt as we purchased last year. So that was a big increase. And just to bring you guys update, we had the 2 bridge damages this month. First was on the County E Coudray River Bridge, and the second was on the State Highway 48 at 33 Creek Bridge. Both guardrails were damaged at both locations. We do have a contractor that's going to be fixing these bridges, and these county will be insurance claims. So we're working through that. Otherwise, I did want to say that we are going to be posting for our patrol superintendent job September 1st. I talked with Rose today, and then also we're going to be adding 2 more foreman positions, 1 more in Hayward and 1 more in Radisson, to try to help out with rotation this winter. So.
Yes.
Highway 77, as you go, say if you're coming from the intersection of 63 and you're going towards the bowling alley, is there any plan to fix that? It's not just a small section that's just terrible.
So as of right now, there is no plan. Actually, I have a retired commissioner coming up from La Crosse meeting with me next Wednesday, and we're going to look at some of these projects that I have in the future that I've been looking at. He's going to help me put them together. So, but that's one we could look at. I have about 8 different projects for us to look at right now.
Yeah, please put that on your list. That's,
Okay.
I'm sure people will be happy to get that fixed. So.
Did Mr. Bicey give us a written?
He has not yet, just a verbal. So.
John, that working on Friday, that's overtime, so that to qualify for the money to come back from the storm damage?
Correct. Yep. That'll all be reimbursed.
Okay.
I think we were allotted 294,000, and I think we're only maybe at like 120, 130,000 right now.
Mhm.
So.
And those are very nice patches on W. I was over there. So
Thank you.
Yes.
And maybe just to clarify, John, so the patrol superintendent is anticipated retirement, and then the foreman position, we aren't you mentioned before we have 16, we've been as high as 19. So you've talked to HR about adding or increasing that amount. The foreman position, though, wouldn't be new bodies, it would be new designations.
New designations, correct.
Yes.
So we'd have a total of 19. That would cover our routes, the state beats and our county routes, and then, on call if somebody was sick or something, we'd have enough people to cover.
Up to this point, there's only one person that we take on the after hours calls. And that's not what we just don't see that direction.
So they are going from 16 to 19?
Yes, well, I don't know if you know, we may see it, but 17, 18, I'm not sure what you finalized.
We're talking with Rose, we're gonna sit down next week. Just this week's been chaotic, but yeah, we were looking at 19. That's what from previous years past. I went back all the way to 2012 and looked at the amount of employees we had at the county.
I understand that's how it was in the, I'm just asking for, budgeting. Is that going to
We'll let them deal with the budget
Yeah,
and they bring it to us.
sort of grip?
I think part of the problem is we've had such a cycle of people departing and filling, that we're not keeping up on filling for half.
And then also we're gonna keep that open because we will have another retiree in Radisson here in a couple months. So.
How many more of that age that are gonna be going to the door? Right now, the foreman
The
is there yet?
Yeah, we got two two people. Rod and Brad, and then pretty much we're all to a new crew.
It was a big turnover. I think that at one time we counted to be over a course of 3-4 years, 11 people were going out the door.
Mhm.
Yeah. Any questions for Mr. Bissonnette or Mr. Rusk?
The only question that I have, excuse me, was in regard, I mean, it's not surprising to me that salt prices have increased, everything's increased. But John, do you typically check with multiple vendors when you're looking for salt?
So this was done before my time. Actually, the patrol superintendent did this, but going forward, I can ask him. I'm not sure how it was bid.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Let's go on to letter B, driveway utility permit fees, driveway utility ordinance draft discussion. Help us out.
I'll take part of that. I don't know if John has anything new, but we left last month to start working on an ordinance, and we're just working on it. I've gotten as far as, rather than having council put it all together for us, we wanted to draft something on our own and then have it go to council. So I've gathered up a half dozen different ordinances from other counties and trying to piece that together, but I don't have anything more than that tonight.
Okay.
What we have in front of us is a draft.
That's the draft application. What we need is an ordinance to support the application. So and I'll just say what a lot of counties seem to have is a highway access ordinance that covers permit fees and application process.
Want to tell us a little research what you did to get to this point, please?
Yeah, so I was looking at the county, between Brad and myself, we spend a lot of time out there looking at these driveway permits, utility permits. We've been having damages from utility companies on our roads in the past. So there's never been, a dollar amount put to these permits to hold, other people responsible. So I just talked with other counties and found out what they were doing and brought it to Andy and Ron to see if we can move forward on this. And this way it would give the county back some money for our time that we spend out doing all this.
So Andy, can we approve the applications or do we need to wait for the ordinance?
I mean, you could approve the applications and John can start using the applications. I mean, we're already doing this, but really to be able to we got to the point of talking about an ordinance is we want to be able to, if we're going to have a permit process, what we should have had is an ordinance to support it or back it up. Because as you grant a highway or a driveway permit, you want to have a mechanism to rescind a highway permit. Or if they didn't get a permit, you want to have an ordinance to enforce that they have to have one. Same thing with utility access. And then John has also shared with me right-of-way permits for wood. You really need to have an ordinance to support granting that and enforcing it and regulating it.
And I believe there was a right away.
Right away.
Yeah, working on right away.
Working on it that way too. Yeah.
Yes.
So we're currently using this application?
Are you currently using this application?
The driveway and utility permits we are.
Okay.
We don't, the permits that I provided you, I put together for the wood permit and the right of way permit. We've been using the states in the past.
Okay.
That's the only thing we've ever had. So I think I sent them to you too.
The reason I ask is, like you said, you don't have an ordinance to back this up. Is that even kosher to?
We've already been granting these permits. There's just been no fee attached to it.
Oh, I was just gonna
That's
say,
the primary
but
change.
you're charging people then.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
But it
Clarifies that.
the whole idea of charging the permit fee raised the issue that we have no way to regulate. I mean, requiring them to have a permit that would pay the fee.
So we want to have that on the agenda next month?
Yes, you want to keep this on the agenda.
All right. Anything else we want to quiz John on or? Thank you for all you're doing out there, John. You're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Number 11, courthouse remodel update, and Andy's provided us with a handout. Did you get the handout? No. Here,
I'll bring you over a copy. I'll put this on the screen.
then let me steal that one for now. I'll give it back to you. Thank you. Talk to us, Andy. Oh, okay. Thank you. John probably wants one. Derek wants one. Thank you, Andy. There you go.
So just a kind of a general update first before I jump into the handout. Construction is pretty much completed. We're in the midst of punch list, kind of the end, final wrap up items. There are some vendors that still have to come back and they're testing like the HVAC system and getting that balanced. The AV contractor is here for last week and this week, finishing the AV work, and then the state started yesterday from the court system with the CCAP, getting the second courtroom all up and running. Excuse me. So things are wrapping up. The courtroom, second courtroom, unless there's some unknown difficulty with the AV or CCAP, will be up and running next week. Obviously, Friday we have the investiture ceremony for Judge Isham at 3:30. So, Judge Isham and her judicial assistant have access to their, are starting to use their office spaces in the remodeled area. In regards, just another kind of general comment, I don't have a whole lot of updates, but we have been working on kind of wrapping up or addressing some of the issues with the building. And before we settle any payments and closeout, we've talked about some of the things that we maybe have issue with that are deficient or didn't go as expected. So we've asked council to help with that because they're the ones who helped draft the contracts, which led us into also, I've engaged with a owner's representative to help us with the conversation between the attorney and the contractors. We just started that this week, so that we just needed somebody to help speak the language between all the parties to help us address these things. So we are working on that.
Just a minute, please. You understand it's because we have some issues that came up that we don't feel we're covered by?
Right, I wrote that down.
Okay,
I was gonna ask that question for us.
okay.
Yep.
Good.
So we're not into the back and forth yet. Now, we talked to council, we have notified the parties, we've notified them now that we brought on an owner's representative to help us with those conversations. And he's asking for information from the vendors. There's been some communication between them already. There's a change order that we have sitting out there that I'll talk about a little bit here that the board approved the money for, but we didn't want to completely sign off on that and waive any rights to have recourse. We think we know where some of the issues are, but we have to basically engage both the design group and the project managers in that conversation. And there'll be some back and forth on that. I'm guessing John in his line of work has dealt with owner reps and project managers and knows what I'm talking about. So it should be interesting. The first conversations with the owner's rep really helped set us a path now going forward. What I also wanted to do though is kind of give you an update on some of these items we went through back in April and as to where they're at. So I tried to use the same list I had gone through before and put a little color coding to it. Didn't change the format much. So just the door I'll run through the list under the top left column. There was an issue with the door from the courtroom 1, that's just say Judge Yackel's courtroom, into the hallway by his office area. The door was not controlled by car access. We were able to address the way the door still swings the same way, but it opens all the way rather than just 90 degrees. So that eliminated that problem, and that was a very cost-effective fix. The design group Venture pursued a variance for us on a lock for that door. That variance, we noticed today at the construction meeting, has been approved. The cost to fix that or put a different lock on the door, essentially what it's going to have is a lock that will be time controlled if the fire alarm goes off. and then it will unlock. So it should be controlled at least, and you won't be able to just exit out of there without anybody, doesn't require a key, doesn't require a card, but at least the door is locked, so you just can't go from the courtroom into the chamber areas without having some sort of access. That cost is included in the contingency expense that we had authorized them to go ahead with. Same thing, we had talked about the door behind the bench, the infamous door that doesn't match the wall. And so we were able to come up with the contractor a more cost-effective fix. Essentially what they did is they ordered some laminate that matches the color of the wall. And then that costs, I think, $250 for a sheet of laminate. And Tim and his crew installed it on both doors, on the courtroom 1 and courtroom 2. So I left the numbers in at what we had estimated before. So it's, closer to the 250 mark, just for the cost of the materials. See, I'll go down a little further onto the furnishing side. The attorney tables in courtroom 1, they, just didn't meet our expectations in terms of size and color, but gray, I would say yellow on here means that it's gone ahead and has been done or purchased. Gray means we've just punted on it for the time being and aren't doing anything and haven't done anything. So nothing has happened in courtroom 1 with those tables. The courtroom podium, we've solved that, and actually maintenance is going to take on building some podiums, a little more cost effective, and we can get the color correct, and it won't be $2,000. On the right side, things that were not done and were not included in the plans, the unit heater and this breezeway that John went through to get in here, there's no HVAC in there. That was an omission. Normally in a breezeway, separating the outside and the interior of the building, you have some type of climate control. We've not done anything. We can go to a vendor after the project's over and have that done if we so choose, rather than having it included and then having to pay a higher charge anyway. That is one of the items we've included. It's a deficiency in the design. They should have known that. In theory, if it would have been included, we would have paid more. But we did include that as one of the deficiencies. But more than likely, at some point in the future, we're going to come back and talk about that and how we can pay for it or include it in maintenance project in the future. We've done nothing with the 5th Street. As far as the landscaping, that's all actually finished, and we think that's usable for the time being without any additional modifications. The sprinkler in the holding cell 130, if you remember, that was the one holding cell we had that if they put an inmate in there, somebody had to stand outside the door because you couldn't lock the door because it didn't have a sprinkler head in it. So when they came back to do the sprinkler system in the remodel area, they added in the sprinkler in that area, and that was included in the contingency work that we authorized them to go ahead with. I don't have a final amount, except we think they said it's less than the 2,500 original estimate. The wing walls, those have to do with fire doors that we have currently. The doors into the second courtroom that are the gray steel doors that, you can't really tell what's behind them. That's just a nice, we brought that up because we anticipate when it's in use, those doors people might prop open, and they're really not supposed to be propped open because they're fire doors. Same thing with the door going from the original courthouse into this area. It's tough to recognize that that's the magic door to get over here. And so we're going to sign it. And Tim has looked into what maintenance can do in the future to put a mag hold. Again, it's a magnet that's on the door. If the fire alarm is tripped, the magnet releases and shuts the door. So he thinks he has a way he can do that with his maintenance staff down the road for a lot less money. But we're just going to kind of punt on that until we get down the road a ways. The rails on the ramps in the courtrooms, that was authorized. It's going to be less than the 5,000. We went with just, we're not calling them a railing. We're calling them guardrails, because if you call it a railing, then it's like it needs to be ADA approved and all that. So it's really just some pipe that goes along the rail on the ramp that would protect somebody from tripping over the ramp. One new item I added in under this section is the duress system. So duress system would be the button in an office that somebody would flip or pull to alert our dispatch or the sheriff's department that there's a problem. Like there's a come now, somebody is threatening them or they're out of control. So many of the offices on the old side of the building had duress buttons. And but the system went through the area that had to be remodeled. And so and it was an old duress system. So those were all abandoned and taken out because the brains were all in the remodeled area of the building. There are offices that want them back. And I should say it was taken out of commission. And in the interim, IT worked with those offices to program a button on the phones that one could hit, and it would send a call to the dispatch center. That works. The problem is that with the way the phone setup is, they get a call, they can tell it's from the courthouse, but they can't tell where in the courthouse it is. So they are working on some alternatives to that, of some type of adding a dispatch number that would be dedicated towards those offices. So, and then by the way it rings, they would know. And I can't explain the technology, but setting up a separate phone, separate line that would be able to detect which office it's coming from. So that would narrow it down as to where they need to respond. But, and I'll just say, this is something we're going to need to discuss at some point. No decision tonight. There are offices that want the button because they don't want to have to talk to somebody, or they want to be able to discreetly click the button or set the button off so that it sends a message over. I think it's a point of discussion whether we need it or not, because a lot of the offices where these buttons are located since COVID have plexiglass, they have a barrier. It's not as if somebody's going to climb over the counter at them in the time it takes to just make a call over to dispatch. And so it's whether or not the $20,000 expense is worth it. So,
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Question. What about the courtrooms? Are they gonna have a duress?
this new area is on a new system.
Okay,
So this would be extending the system that was installed in the new construction into the older parts of the building where it was taken out.
thank you.
But the estimate to take it on to the first and second floor of the old building is $19,000 and some change, if we wanted to implement that at some point. Going down the list, podiums for the courtrooms. So this is the only podium that was acquired. There was none for the courtrooms. They do need something. We've been wheeling it over there when they've needed it, but maintenance is going to refurbish the one that was in the old courtroom and then build another one like it to solve that. They really don't need a podium as much as they need like a lectern, just something simple for the attorney to stand at and put their paperwork on. This is probably overkill. But we're going to do that internal. We had talked about the chairs. The black chairs are the new chairs. The white chairs are the chairs we had in stock. Seems to be working. So I don't think we need to get any new chairs here. AV, there's the Kansas Street conference room here, and then the conference room in the sheriff's department that was created in the project. Neither one had any budget for AV, for putting a monitor or communication like for a Zoom call. Again, we're just going to kind of, I guess I'm telling you, we're planning to punt on that and see what the AV budget is at the end of the project, or what we can work into the IT budget down the road. Public benches, seating in all the hallways, that was not something that was part of the project originally, but we took all the benches out of the old courtroom, stepped them over to maintenance and said, see what you can do. And I think they did an awesome job. And they're scattered around, and that I don't even think that's half of them. We've got more over there that they haven't done yet. But
John, what the ones that are right on
yep. Yep. Did a great job. So that, I mean, if we would have had build all those benches new, that's thousands and thousands of dollars for a solid wood bench like that. So we're really good reuse of materials there. The flag displays, finally went ahead and have those. They came in earlier this week. Maintenance is putting them together and filling the bases with sand. So they'll be up, I would assume, tomorrow. I know we needed them for the ceremony on Friday. So we have, for each courtroom in this boardroom, we've got a US flag, a Wisconsin flag, and then we don't have the flag zip, but we have the poles for an LCO flag, should we get them, and they'll be put in. The state seal, have not done anything with that. So this is another discussion on how bad do you want it, I think. I know the judge is where the conversation originated, because in all the renderings for the project, on that wall, this wall right in the middle, there was a state seal, and also in the courtrooms. I've not found, like, to get a 2 to 3 foot diameter seal is $1,000 or more from what I found so far, depending on, you can go up from there, but depending on if you want it, what type of wood you want, or do you want it color or metal, it gets more expensive. I talked to Tim today to see if we could find anybody else to do it more cost effective, but that's potentially a $3,000 plus expense to put one in each of the courtrooms in the boardroom.
7 for a while. Let Evers give us one.
So we'll keep looking for a better price. But at some point we'll have to decide if you want one to.
Then send a
yellow.
letter to Evers. when we need him.
Yeah,
He's gonna be a fellow.
Is he? Is he going to the airport? Tell him you were at a meeting last night. We need 3 seals. So send them up.
He's been coming to the terminal company.
Pardon?
He's been coming to the terminal company.
Good thing you got that all done.
He's at the presentation. I'm sorry.
and then these 3 other items here below, were items that turned up as not being in the, all in the second courtroom, all part of the furniture, contract, were not included. And when they came in and installed the rest of the furnishings, a couple weeks ago, it came out that there were not any attorney tables for the second courtroom, or chairs for the juror box, or a chair for the judge's office. We think we know how the judge and the chair in the judge's office, how that one got missed. We're not sure about the attorney tables and the chairs in the juror box. In the short term, it's not a huge issue because we have tables like that we're supposed to, that table there's a couple more in there that we can move into for the court, because we're not really using them in here. And then also the same with these chairs. We have the Kansas Street conference room really isn't getting used much. We can take those out and put them in the, and there were some extra chairs from courtroom 1 that didn't get used, like a couple. And then in each of the courtrooms, there's 4 chairs. There's 2 conference rooms at the entrance to each courtroom. They have 4 chairs in it. We can borrow out of there too. But probably at some point in the near future should plan to get chairs so that they're all there.
Well, for now, can't we just take, there's 2 courtrooms. If there's not gonna be 2 hearings at one time,
Right.
you can just move the chairs over to the other courtroom.
Honestly, in the short term, that's a reasonable solution. Probably someday we're gonna end up having everything getting used and yeah.
Our engineering, I believe, but go ahead.
Yep, and you'll be shocked. Like, we got the quote, just that's where the numbers came from. So the chair you're sitting in has a list price of $747, and they're offering to sell them to us for $352. Yeah. So
So sit up tight in them chairs.
that's but we put the estimate in for the tables, and there's $12,000 worth of furnishings that would need to be acquired. I know. And we've looked around, and that's just the chair market these days. That's where it's at for a decent chair. So I think that kind of summarizes where we're at on all those things. I don't know if anybody feels really passionate about taking on any of those items we haven't done yet. We did the things we thought were just basics to get everything up and operating. And then we could take on these other things once we get the numbers closer to final with all of the expense. Like we had to pay the AV contract and the the furnishings contract directly. And then we're still closing out at some point the venture and project manager contracts.
Well, once all the hired help leaves, I think before we get to winter, we should have something in this breezeway out here so we don't have ice build up and someone slip and fall right away and get sued right away. Oh,
What was that?
My office would be okay with just a phone system instead of the phone direct.
Okay.
How many neighbors in the mess who went upstairs? Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
So that'll be something you'll have to do is inventory, how many you actually need.
The duress system?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know a couple offices have been very unhappy that they haven't had it.
Yeah.
And they expect it to come back.
Do
But-
they have? Do they have the COVID screening? And they still are adamant.
I imagine it's Health Human Services, which some of them I don't blame.
Yeah, I'm not gonna call them out here, but
Yeah, that's fine.
and then I did add just some notes here, mostly for myself, other things to discuss. I think this is the committee to take them on. Dedication plaque. You know, a lot of courthouses, public buildings, when they were built, or substantial expansion, there's a plaque that ends up. I think there's one on the front of the building. I think for the original courthouse. There's a plaque around here somewhere. I think where it talks about the year it was built, who the elected officials were, who the primary contractor was, that type of thing, and they put it on the wall somewhere. We have not talked about that here. I don't know if you want that or, but that is something.
Because that's something Apple Awards can do. I'm kidding.
It's something what?
Apple Awards.
Yeah, actually, I mean, if you put it inside, it doesn't need to be, on some buildings, it's a nice steel plaque outside mounted in the block. I don't think we need that, but if you wanted something, it could be a simple something inside the door out here, mounted to the wall. And then we'd have to decide what you want on it. Grand opening, ribbon cutting. At some point, we probably should do that to show off to the public what the tax dollars are going for. A courthouse board chair display. That was something that was in the assembly room. Do you want to reestablish that over here? I'm just going to say, if we reestablish it, we'll make it nicer than. Not that that wasn't nice. It was just seemed kind of hodgepodge to me. We'll make.
I think that's important history for the Sawyer County.
Sure.
Okay. And then I know I've talked to Lynn, and she's been taking on the kind of our appearance to the public, like that. Now that hallway is not with a courtroom, coming down like I don't know, the new hallway in the old courthouse. We had, I don't know, half a dozen bulletin boards, all with stuff hanging on them. We've tried to take some of those down, and Lynn's going to control the appearance of that a little bit more. Hopefully that's all right. I mean, I think a lot of agencies, public groups get posters, so they have to put posters up, and I don't know that they get looked at a lot. So we're going to, we have a new board for where county board agendas are posted on that side of the building. She's got one board kind of established for. Why don't you explain what you've got so far?
Yeah, I separated some of the big board with a couple of perspectives, like legal and legal assistance. One section is drug, alcohol, and use. Another one is family, wellness, health. We have a board that shows the bus, third, education. Combined services. Combined services, and you'll see yellow tags. And I actually saw someone looking through the boards yesterday for the first time. So I guess maybe the little tiny headings we put on there kind of attracted some attention as to what kind of services we have. And I did talk to Sherac about putting art up on the walls, and they're pretty stretched out because they already are in 2 other facilities. But they mentioned the high school, if we wanted to consider the high school. And I could also talk to the local art gallery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something Lynn and I have talked about, that we do have a lot of hallway, like a lot of wall space there now. Of having some type of just, I don't know, half a dozen different hooks to put public art up and feature local artists and make it look nice.
They look pretty rare the way they are.
Is there, with regard to those posters or whatever, is there any possibility of having a screen that has a rotational display?
Yep, because we have a monitor at the south end of the building, so that's a budget item for hopefully for next year to put something up that would have a digital display.
Okay.
Yep.
And I guess the other thing we keep on talking about the vestibule out here or whatever it is. What it appeared to me as I walked in tonight that it looks like there are vents in the ceiling that look very much like the vents in here. Are they not operational or connected to anything?
The vestibule out here it's the next one over.
Oh, excuse me.
Yep.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Bissonnette, Mr. Ross?
I'm good,
No
thank you.
questions.
So I'll just jump over to, now that this project's wrapping up, we're going back and maintenance has a little more time. So we do have some things happening in the building. With the kind of the change in staffing and human services, there's a little bit different outlook on how they want to, now I would say, lay themselves out. So maintenance is working with moving all of the public health people into one area of human services. So we're trying to consolidate all of human services that are maybe not behind their reception area into that area. So that's happening. And then we had budgeted this year for register and probate office right now it had a window in the hallway. They wanted like a double set so somebody could come to the window and then they could bring them inside out of the hallway, because a lot of times they are discussing some sensitive information. But with the moving of register and probate into the clerk of court's office, now maintenance is working with them to plan on how to implement that. So it might be where we can move a window inside out of the hallway for clerk of court that would handle register and probate and clerk of court traffic. And then as soon as we address that, the DA's office does not have a secure window. I mean, you can go in the door and there's like a sliding glass. We're anticipating, they've requested and are going through some plans to give them a secure window for when the public is down visiting them. And then down on the list that I'm pretty sure we won't get to till next year is we have had some conversations with the clerk and the treasurer and the register and deeds about doing some improvements in that area. Just that hallway with the mail machine isn't the best, and the mailboxes. So she's already kind of made the county board mailboxes mobile, so you can get your mail while you're here. And it's also not late. I mean, the county made a move again prior to me, but to share staff in those areas, at least be flexible with support staffing. But the way the windows are laid out is not real conducive to that. So that's on the drawing board as well to put some plans on. Again, we're trying to not do big construction projects, but just something maintenance can handle. But that's now on the board at the bottom to try to improve the layout, which would improve service to the public there and help us control staffing as well.
Is there any updates we need down there where Gary Elliott's at? Has he said anything?
The only thing we have had nothing about the building. Now that they've settled in and we started out with shared staffing there, administrative person between Gary and the ADRC. Gary has requested a full-time staff, which he used to have, to return just because of the volume of work. But we haven't gotten into any building issues or other problems down there.
Good. Number 12, future agenda items. Obviously, we're gonna have the highways permits with, we have the ordinance hopefully in front of us. Airport's gonna keep us up to date with the master plan. Anybody have anything else they'd like to have on the agenda? We'll have courtroom remodel update because we should be done with it. Yes.
I'm not requesting this be on the agenda, but just so you're aware, because it has come up in a couple other committees regarding ATV routes. One conversation was about our ATV ordinance and the role of towns in that ATV ordinance, and whether or not that is something we want to stick to. And then the other one, and this has come up because I believe Bayfield County right now is in the process or has already decided to open up all of their county roads to ATVs. And John might know some more about this. Like Barron County already did that, except for one road, and Chippewa County is dropping a lot of their requirements for ATVs.
I had just spoke to the Chippewa County Commissioner last week, and they're almost gonna be 100% open, probably within another month or two. They're gonna revisit it, so. And I did hear about Bayfield, so.
And I'm just bringing it up because it's being brought up to us. It's probably going to get, if it's not been brought up to you, it came up at public safety and at economic development committees for the county.
Public safety and what was the other one?
Economic development.
And I do have it on the agenda for my traffic safety meeting next week to talk about it, just to kind of get some input.
I think we have some roads that this is not a good thing.
I don't agree with just opening up all the roads. I will never agree to that. I think I like the idea of them coming through with a request and then we look at it and decide.
I think too. I like it that way too. I think each one gives you a chance to go look at it. We know there's some roads that should not have ATVs on. Not that they're not out there now, but. Okay, anybody else have anything?
I guess the only thing I bring up is that I know that the town input at one time was considered to be a pretty valuable resource for the towns, and I'm cautious about eliminating that because of how will, I think, affect different town roads that are only accessible by county roads, and some of the people along there like to have those inaccessible. So that's just something that I feel maybe a little bit under the radar, so but something to be considered. Thank you.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it is. I've had quite a few conversations and I've shared some with Andy. I'm not going to go into detail now, but so this is August, September, we'll have a meeting in October presently by our ordinance. If they're bringing any new routes to us, they're supposed to bring them in October. So that'll be coming. Mr. Russ, Mr. Bissonnette, you have anything else?
I don't.
I don't at this time either, I guess. I was wondering where Kathy's been, but I suppose we'll see her in October.
Yes. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thank you for your time.